Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
There's a civil war brewing in Georgia for no good reason. It's not unreasonable to ask the legislature to come back in and order an audit of the signatures in the presidential race to see if the system worked. What is unreasonable is to sit on your ass and do nothing when you got a chance to save the country.
The country doesn't need saving from the likes of a parasite like Lindsey Graham, okay? You remember before the election, I was getting some questions from people about voting, and the answer was from me to them, you're going to have to check with your state because there are 50 elections in this country. There is no federal election. Each state has a legislature, and each state makes the laws about voting in their respective state. Well, that has not changed. It is still the same. And what's going on here is that a bunch of frivolous lawsuits aimed at disenfranchising 20 million voters, large swaths of voters, undermining the legitimacy of this election, by the state of Texas, because they are crackers. That's what they are, freedom crackers. They are, they call themselves a lot of different things, but they are violent, and they're scared of the violence that they have incited, and they don't want it at their doorstep, and so they are joining in with this frivolous crap that has now been judged by state courts, state Supreme Courts, the Supreme Court, etc. And all of these claims lack proof, lack evidence, lack any credibility or any ability to succeed. And that's what makes a lawsuit frivolous. And all of these attorney generals that signed on to this ridiculous thing that Texas is doing should all be charged with sedition, each and every one of them, for aiding and abetting, if not actually participating in seditious acts aimed at the overthrowing of our democracy in the several states. I mean, this is just ridiculous. What Texas is doing is to ask the Supreme Court to reconsider a mass of baseless claims about problems with elections that have already been considered and rejected, not only by the Supreme Court, but other courts. It is exploiting the anger in this country and exploiting the courts. This is dangerous. The Washington Post editorial board wrote an op-ed today. The danger is growing that Trump's lies about the election will lead to violence. And everybody knows it.
I actually think, and I've referenced this, I've alluded to this a couple of times, because I've seen others allude to this. I actually think that we're trending toward secession. I see more and more people asking, what in the world do we have in common with the people who live in, say, New York? What is there that makes us believe that there is enough of us there to even have a chance at winning New York, especially if you're talking about votes? I see a lot of bloggers, I can't think of names right now, a lot of bloggers have written extensively about how distant and separated and how much more separated our culture is becoming politically. and that it can't go on this way. There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs. We can't be in this dire a conflict without something giving somewhere along the way.
Huh.
And so I know that there is a sizable and growing sentiment for people who believe that that is where we're headed, whether we want to or not.
He is dangling violence and secession by force, is what he's dangling. And some people aren't being that careful about it, like Charlie Kirk and his counterpart on these particular weirdo shows.
You firmly believe, and I believe, that Trump actually won and that there's been massive fraud. Like, you believe that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
100%.
So, but that's the but okay. So let's just stop. But I'm saying, but let's just stop. So you believe that. So my attitude is like, so who cares what I can prove in the courts? This is right. This happened, and I'm just going to do anything I can to uncover this horror, this evil. The idea that somebody would, I mean, let's think, what could be the level of arrogance, brazenness, evil to steal? It's not stealing an election. It's like stealing the heart and soul of America. It's like holding a rusty knife to the throat of Lady Liberty. Like, that's what it is. It's
but you
not
can't
some,
prove that's what it is.
Chicanery that happened.
You can't prove
and
chicanery.
They got away with it. This is evil. And you need to frame it that way. You need to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's like somebody is being raped or murdered, and you say, nah, that's, that just happens. And you're like, that just happens? What's wrong with you? Are you dead? You have no soul? You don't care about that? You don't feel justice must be done? This is that times 1,000.
How do you do justice outside of court?
This country has blessed unfathomable millions around the world in every kind of way, has spread liberty across the globe, around the globe. And I believe it's God's will that we would continue to do that at an increased level for a long time. So the idea that somebody would come in and do something like this, my attitude is just like, I don't care what we need to do. That is so unacceptable that if somebody says to me, well, the odds of you winning, I'd be like, you know what? I don't care about the odds. What's right is right. That is so wrong. We need to do absolutely everything we can. And what's going to happen is going to happen. But we need to fight to the death, to the last drop of blood, because it's worth it.
The last drop of blood. We need to fight to the death. I mean, these people are saying, I don't care if we could prove it. Rape and murder is what he's comparing it to, right? Those things go to court. They're criminal. They're violent, and they go to court to be adjudicated. You just don't point at somebody and say, that person is a murderer, that person is a rapist. You have to go to court and prove that that person is a murderer, that person is a rapist, and then justice can be done. They are saying out loud, I don't care if we can't prove it. This is like Nancy yesterday in Arkansas. I don't care that we can't prove it. I don't care that we have no evidence. This is actionable by us because we feel depressed that we lost. And now we want to kick some ass. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.